since the shock Brexit vote in which the United Kingdom opted out of the European Union, and then the equally surprising and stunning victory of Donald Trump, who is now, of course, the President of the United States of America, the use of this phrase, post-truth, has increased by, take a guess, 2,000%. So you hear this phrase all the time now in the post-Brexit, post-Trump age. A Stanford University study that came out just this week showed that fabricated stories, they actually did a research and they found that fabricated, absolutely fake stories that supported Donald Trump had been shared 30 million times. 30 million times. This is a Stanford University study. And of course, just last night, you had Donald Trump's aide, Kellyanne Conway, giving us a new phrase in our lexicon called alternative facts. There was a time that alternative facts quite simply just used to be what Indians call jhoot, right? Lies. Now you're actually debating, is there such a thing called alternative facts? Now, since we do live in a post-truth world where even anchors are expected and moderators are no longer neutral and moderators wear their biases, I am going to actually set the cat among the pigeons and actually argue and take a side and say, yes, we do live. We do live in a post-truth world where mechanisms of modern technology have made the amplification of lies much simpler than it used to be. But before I open this debate, we have to agree on the premise, and that might be the most difficult part. What is the truth? Oscar Wilde, in The Importance of Being Earnest, said, the truth is rarely pure and never simple. Then you had Akira Kurosawa, the magnificent filmmaker, and what's known as the Rashomon effect. His famous movie in which a rape and an apparent murder was recounted in 4 different ways with 4 completely divergent narratives, leaving it to the viewer or the person watching the movie to decide what was true. And then, of course, you have Ogden Nash's poem, Golly, How Truth Will Out. How does a person get to be a capable liar? That is something I respectfully inquire, because I don't believe a person will ever set the world on fire unless they are a capable liar. Lies have always been the bedrock of politics. Propaganda has always been the bedrock of politics. But has our world just got a little more false? I would argue, yes it is. And with that, I call upon Prasoon Joshi to speak in support of the motion. Prasoon. Before Prasoon comes on, let's have a show of hands for those who believe, yes, we are living in a post-truth world. Yes, we are living in a post-truth world.
Now these guys are...
And is it safe to say this house believes we are living in a post-truth world? Yes. Prasoon, you have an easy job there. Okay, I'm being asked, I think fairly, to also see how many voices there are on the other side. How many of you disagree with the motion? Disagree. Raise your hands, disagree. So it's safe to say that's about 1% of the hall right now. We're going to see if the other side can change your mind. This house currently believes we are living in a post-truth world.
Well, first of all, I think since Barkha has started this and she has given a lot in the favor of the motion, I can see the sentiment already, started getting affected. But I think the purpose of I won't call it debate. I think it should be discussions. In India, we do discussions more than debates, and we should. And we are, most of the times, ready to change our point of view if we like the argument around it. And I think that's how I would see this. Because when I was asked to participate in this, and I asked many people around, the industry I work in the milieu I am, a lot of people were not even bothered about it. Frankly, how many of you had heard the word post-truth before you came here? Quite a number of people here. But I met a lot of people who had not heard the word. And then people started talking about what exactly, so what is the definition of this word post-truth? What have I gathered from various informations or articles where I've read, I felt that you're saying that beliefs and emotions have become bigger than the facts. And that's where post-truth is trying to define itself. I disagree with the definition. I don't disagree with the change which has happened. There is definitely a change there. But do you call it a change where emotions and beliefs have become bigger than facts? When were they not? And you look at, since time immemorial, any history, I mean, how can, if emotions were not bigger, the facts will hold you back sometimes. Anybody who tries to break free from the milieu they live in, the facts will go and tell you, well, you can't do it because the facts are, the numbers are telling you, the statistics are telling you, you can't do it. He's saying, oh, I want to dream, I want to do it. So he will go, he or she will go with the belief and the emotion. What is ekla chalore? Is an emotion. It is not based on a fact. What is Guru Gobind saying when he's saying that, sawa lakh se ek ladawa? I mean, and he fights and for the pride and valor. What is that? What is altruism? It's all based on emotions. So emotions have always been there. And without emotions, without belief, I don't think that we'll have a society. We'll have a structure we have. All the family structure is on belief. The relationships we have are on a belief. If it's only transactional, factual, probably you'll discard your parents after some time because they have used you've used their utility, they have lived their utility. I think facts will hold you back from a lot of things. The problem I have is that the lies are positioned as facts today. That is the problem. And when the lies are seen as facts, I see there is a problem. I just want to recite this little bit, which I wrote about it. Please bear with me.
Prasoon, hurry up. Prasoon, you have 10 seconds, please.
Okay.
10 seconds.
Give me 20. You want me to recite?
We are not in a post-arithmetic world. You have 15 seconds. Yes.
सत्य जब घर से निकलता है, एक नई दुनिया से मिलता है. यह नहीं कि सत्य को मालूम ना हो सत्य क्या है. यह नहीं कि सत्य को आदत नहीं है पत्थरों की. बर्छी भाले नश्तरों के हैं निशा उसके बदन पर और न जाने कितने घाव कितने युगों से रिस रहे हैं. पर नए युग में संभलता है. सत्य जब घर से निकलता है. आग पीने का हुनर आता है उसको. दर्द सहने की कला में दक्ष है.
Okay. Thank you. And Waldman, poet and author. And Prasoon, didn't you think Prasoon was speaking against the motion though? I was a bit confused. But we'll get to that. And go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I want to express my great respect for all that is JLF, and I want to especially thank the incredible women, presenters, and leaders, and the women workers, and all the young people I've spoken with here. And women are going to change the world. And I think this post-truth idea is a patriarchal term. We have already been living in a post-truth world. So, Earth sets a temperature record for the 3rd straight year. Ice is melting off the charts in the Arctic Ocean's Chukchi Sea region. It is the first time the temperatures have blown past the previous record 3 years in a row. Climate change is not living in a post-truth world. I am inspired by the many women in these protests all over the world. I'm inspired by their commitment, and this is going to change the frequency. Whether we survive or not, we have to move on. Trump calls global warming a Chinese plot. He's concerned with climate change, and we are concerned about this. It's been taken off the US government website, all this information about climate change. This is denying it. We're afraid that this archive of information could go away. It will not go away. There are enough people, sane scientists and bodies of archivists and people who will keep this whole. And we will work more emphatically than ever. And we have the governor of California, Jerry Brown. Shout out to Jerry Brown, 6th largest economy in the world, who will keep that climate satellite going and will be a bastion of progress and not denying such a thing. The earth is heating up. This is beyond serious scientific dispute. The deniers live in a post-truth world. Profound threat to natural world and human civilization. No matter how much you spin it, you cannot obviate the truth of global warming. Coastal erosion on the Arctic. People in the town of Pelodi lived through the hottest day in record. This is the hottest day in the history of India. It was 123.8 degrees Fahrenheit. I want to reference the Buddhist idea of kunzup, of relative truth. In this philosophy, relative truth is the phenomenal world, is the outfit, is the self-existing show, a performance, a living theater. This is relative truth. As a perceiver, you want to see things your own way, so the performance shifts around you. You could be the audience, or you could be the show. The idea of relative truth implies that different people would have different perspectives on the world. When we try to discuss, and I need my 10 more minutes, reality,
Not
we
10 more
have
minutes.
10 seconds. Disagreements, we have different attitudes about everything. There's also ignorance, bigotry, racism, and ideology that wants to enforce their versions of truth. The distinction between unreasonable and reasonable logic begins to break down. The dressed up world is very hard to work with. We have to transcend our neurosis. The ordinary popular world's truth
Okay, before I call the next speaker, I have to say I'm absolutely confused. I thought Prasoon was going to speak for the motion. It sounded to me like he was opposing it. I thought Anne was going to oppose it. She opposed the terminology. She questioned whether post-truth is even a phenomenon that we should, or a language that we should accept, but everything else sounded like she agreed that there is an attempt to manipulate the truth. Suhel, can you help us here? Suhel says speaking for the motion.
Truth must be told. I was to speak against the motion. Barkha Dutt manipulated this panel and made me speak for.
You're just sulking because you didn't get to open the debate.
See, this is the problem. The Barkha Dutts, not Barkha, but normal people from the media fraternity have created this nonsense about truth, post-truth. We are in the land.
Hello, you're for the motion.
Listen, are you part of the debate? You're
No,
just the
this is you
moderator.
addressed me.
Relax.
Say, I'm in a post-truth moderation.
We are from the land of Gandhi, Mahatma, not Rahul. We always believe in the truth. We examine things based on truth. I completely agree with Anne. I completely agree with Prasoon. I will agree with Barkha when she makes sense. This whole truth, post-truth, it's a bit of the media's invention. It's like intolerance, ghar wapsi. I believe people are smart enough to know that Donald Trump is nothing but an insidious liar. People are also smart enough to know when they're being manipulated by the media, which in turn gets manipulated by the politician, who in turn gets manipulated by whoever he's in bed with. I genuinely believe if we as citizens of a free world recognize that the truth must be preserved and people must be made accountable all over again, as Donald Trump will be, as people who lie to their people they govern will be, I believe we're in safe territory. Yes, blips will continue to exist in humanity as they must. We mustn't take this phase of what I call misrepresentation, lies to prove that this world will not change. As for now, we do live in a world where manipulation happens, where people dodge on facts, where people manipulate the public discourse only to suit their minuscule narratives or their manipulative agendas. That's the reality. I mean, this side has such brilliant people. Swapan Dasgupta is a member of India's upper house. You can't get more noble people than people from the Rajya Sabha. He's a journalist. He's an author. So these are very brilliant people. Shashi Tharoor is a member. Shashi Tharoor is a member of the lower house. which again says a lot. It's the Lok Sabha. He's been elected twice by the people of Thiruvananthapuram. We must applaud the fact that these two people recognize, even when they are in parliament, they are in a post-truth environment. So I will end by saying, but I don't want this gentleman to interrupt me. All I will say is, you began sensibly, end sensibly. You voted for the right side because you voted for the truth. You could see the difference between the lies and the truth. If lies exist, it is up to you to obliterate them. God bless you. God bless America. Jai Hind.
Okay. I think from Donald Trump to Suhel Seth, we now have theater instead of facts. Do you think Suhel should run for president next in America? Okay. Suhel, we're sending you to Trump land. Swapan, you're up next.
Thank you, Barkha. Now, Prasoon Joshi asked a very leading question. And he said, how many people have heard of post-truth? And you answered. Now, I want to tweak that question a little bit. How many people had heard of the term post-truth 2 years ago?
Correct.
Yeah, only one had. Great for you, sir. Now, what was the change? What was the change in these 2 years, in this 1.5 years? कि कोई आदमी चुनाव हार गया. That was the fundamental change. Some people who thought that they had a monopoly of the truth, that they had a monopoly over wisdom, found that the masses didn't agree with them on the question of Brexit. Then, my friends like Barkha Dutt and her ilk,
Hey, I have to get to be a speaker today. You can't pick on the moderator without allowing rebuttal.
they decided that they had the monopoly. They knew exactly how the people of America wanted to go.
Yes.
The people of America thought that maybe we hate one person more than we like one person. So they voted somebody who you might think is a bit crazy. But that's the reality. So losers of the world come together and say, this is now the post-truth. We have all been manipulated. Barkha Dutt mentioned that 13 million tweets of some false story which allegedly Trump supporters had put out.
Stanford. It's a Stanford study.
Oh, it's the same difference.
Post-truth.
Stanford University professor said there is a 99% chance that Hillary Clinton will be president. Now, if I was to believe Stanford University, now Barkha, that 13 million tweets have been circulated. Now, what about the 13 years you spent relentlessly saying someone is a mass murderer?
Said. Please name the person. Please name the person. Name. Attribution.
The people of India elected him Prime Minister, so you say he too is part of the post-truth. So, everything is post-truth. You know, it reminds me, some time ago, I was talking in on a session on Winston Churchill, and it came to mind that Churchill had written a book. Then this old gentleman, Arthur Balfour, who was the Prime Minister, and said, I believe Winston has written a book about himself, and he's called it The World Crisis. So this is precisely what we see. Angst-ridden people who are now confused, who want to say, look, it is all false consciousness. We are the repository of the entire truth. If people don't believe us, they have been manipulated. None of you have any wisdom. The people of America don't have any wisdom. The people of Britain don't have any wisdom. The people of India don't have any wisdom. It reposes in the hands of a few professors of Stanford University, maybe Brown University.
So clear. clearly the one thing that's in common between Trump and this panel is that the media is the enemy, right? Don't you think the moderator should get a chance to speak, considering I'm their favorite Pajak bag? Ashutosh Varshney, go ahead.
I'm afraid I'll have to lower the temperature. And I'm a professor, I cannot speak like this. Sorry, apologies. My argument will be that we have been living in a post-truth world, even though the word has entered Oxford Dictionary only recently. But the form in which the post-truth world is expressing itself is new. The idea is not new, the form is new. Political thinkers for the last 200 years at least, many of them have talked about two things. One, how the structure of power changes social consciousness. And two, about either the impossibility of truth or multiplicity of truths. So for each of these positions, let me give you a short quotation or short idea. Antonio Gramsci famously argued 100 years ago, a little less than 100 years ago, that argued about the idea of hegemony. What did he mean? The idea was that if the ruling elites control the media and the instruments of cultural communication, they can convince the masses against their interests. That's an idea of hegemony that was put out many, many years ago. Nietzsche wrote the following, that you can see how Donald Trump could have used it. Quote, "It is more than a moral prejudice that truth is worth more than appearance." Unquote. It is more than a moral prejudice that truth is worth more than appearance. In other words, the idea is appearance can be more important. Finally, the French philosopher Michel Foucault very influentially argued that power and knowledge are inextricably intertwined. We have narratives, we don't have the truth. It was about the impossibility of truth and the argument that the narratives propagated by the power elite acquire hegemony. This is the argument. Think about this. Think about how this idea has been used by recent historians to make the claim that the histories written by people like James Mill or the ideas proposed by people like John Stuart Mill became the dominant histories or dominant discourses about India. Namely, how before the arrival of the British, India was only in a dark period, and how the British were the only people who brought light to India. This is straightforward Foucauldian argument. Okay, now, so we've been living this life for a long time. Two things have changed. First, the earlier notion of untruths, etc., was not about democratic politics. It was about capitalism, it was about imperialism, but not about democratic politics. And second, earlier forms of knowledge were propagated through academies or through traditional media. Now through social media, political leaders communicate with millions of people, and even Barkha communicates with 5.4 million.
I think Professor Varshney has been the most nuanced and well-behaved, so for that we should have a round of applause, right? Up next, Luke Harding. Luke, apart from all his many accomplishments, got thrown out of Russia by Putin. We also forgot to discuss, we live not just in a post-truth world, we live in a world of alpha males. Do alpha males like Suhel and Swapan now get to decide truth for us? Luke, you're up next.
Hello, what a great crowd. I'm no alpha male. Thank you. That's a post-microphone in the face. As Barkha said, I was kicked out of Russia by Vladimir Putin, and I think, just to be serious very briefly for a moment, we have to bear in mind what's going on here. We're some way into the 21st century, and what we have is we have a new breed of authoritarian leader like Putin, like Trump, like Erdogan, and so on. And what they've done Putin is the best at this, is something quite clever, which is that they've figured out truth is irrelevant. Doesn't matter what's true and what's a lie. What matters is their kind of sovereign version of reality that they kind of shout out to you guys using social media, using trolls sitting in factories, using people who send me abuse every morning on Twitter. These are enemies. These are enemies. And they don't have to convince everybody. They just need to confuse you. It's a sort of strategy of creating what you might call hermeneutic noise, cacophony, so no one knows what the hell is going on. That's their mission. They do this, they flood the zone, and meanwhile the truth kind of, they can do their own thing for bad or worse. Now, investigative journalists like me, we struggle against this. My newspaper is The Guardian. We had a very distinguished editor of The Guardian called C.P. Scott, and he had a motto, and his motto, which is my newspaper's animating principle, goes like this. Comment is free, but facts are sacred. And they are still sacred in our noisy age. Don't listen to Swapan and other friends of Donald Trump who say we can just shrug our shoulders and give up. We shouldn't give up, because that means that you and I are idiots if we fall for this. I remember talking to an executive from Russian television who said to me, there's no such thing as truth, only narrative. I don't agree with that. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I'm a kind of universalist, and I do believe in truth. I do believe it's reachable, and I do believe we should struggle for it. And we're at a very interesting and precarious moment. We have Donald Trump in the White House. He's a man who doesn't have a sort of, a cupboard full of skeletons. He's a man who has a rolling conveyor belt of skeletons. Money, sex, more money, lying, Russia, hacking, bank deals, property, everything. I mean, this man is a walking disaster. And I mean, we saw his inauguration. It was like watching a kind of clown car hitting a lamppost. He and Vladimir Putin are the foremost exponents of post-truth. And if you vote for this motion, you're voting for these guys. What I'm going to do, what journalists from the New York Times are going to do, from Indian newspapers, from German newspapers, we're going to hold these people to account. And we're going to try and find out what their secrets are, and we're going to publish them. And in the end, it will be truth that will bring down Donald Trump, impeach him, and move us somewhere else. Thank you.
All right, so Luke raises the heart of the question, is truth subjective? Is it just competing narratives, or is it empirical, measurable, quantifiable, provable? David.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for setting me up there. Good evening. I am the substitute here, the fellow who is not in the brochure. They just picked me up on a tuk-tuk and said, do you fancy coming in and having a few words about the truth? As you might hear from my accent, I'm from Dublin. I will try to make myself as comprehensible as possible to you, but it could be difficult. Now, the interesting thing about being Irish and the truth is we have an unusual relationship with the truth. It's a kind of, and it was funny when I was in talking to all the Indians here beforehand, before the gig, I kind of realized you're kind of like a tanned version of us, okay? Like, we're not even white, we're pink, okay? And when it comes to the truth, I first understood this. I first went to England when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, to get a job. And the English have a very strange relationship. It's either right or it's wrong. That's the way. It's either right or it's wrong. So it's true or it's false. In Ireland, it's kind of a bit different. So there's stuff that you'd hear that you really wouldn't argue with. And there's stuff that you'd hear that you think is clearly taking the mickey. And somewhere in the middle is the truth. And there we tend to argue. So it seems to be the Anglo-Saxons, God bless them, have an obsession with the tyranny of measurement. That everything that is measured is clearly important, and things that cannot be measured are not important. As a consequence, they get to be obsessed by right and wrong. And I believe that we all live in the grey area, where truth is really part of your own story. It's part of your own emotion. Like you mentioned Putin, there's many Irish people would actually believe that Churchill was a Putin, for example. Okay? It just depends where you're standing. Queen Victoria was our Donald Trump, you know, it's all good with us. But we're at a tipping point. We're at a tipping point, and that's clear. And as an economist, I'll deploy a little bit of poetry here to absolve myself completely. Because it's not the first tipping point, and it won't be the last. Tipping points all the time. All the time. And a fella called Yeats, who was an Irish lad partial to writing a bit of an old verse every now and then, wrote a poem called The Second Coming. And it was about exactly this moment 100 years ago in European, Irish, British history. And as somebody educated by Irish priests many years ago, I still know this thing off by heart. Anybody who else suffered at the hands of Irish priests, we can form a self-help group and deal with it later on. But he said, listen to this, 100 years ago, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the centre cannot hold. I'll hold your air. Mere anarchy is loosed on the world, a blood-dim tide is loosed, and everywhere the procession of innocence is drowned. But this is the important line. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. So this is where we are. And in order to get to the truth, I'll finish later.
All right. So has truth moved from a complex notion and to the Twitter echo chamber? Shashi, Tharoor.
Let me start off by thanking David for describing the speakers for the motion. The worst are full of passionate intensity. Don't believe them. One simple question. If we are living in a post-truth era, was there ever a truth era? Was the world ever true? The short answer is no. We're living in a world of lies, and we have always lived in a world of lies. Let me tell you a very simple story, since this is a literature festival, going back to our ancient Puranas, not one of my stories, a story 2,000 years ago, of a young warrior who wants to marry a beautiful princess. The king, her father, thinks he's too cocksure and callow. So he says, you can only marry my daughter when you have found truth. So he gallops off in his horse in all directions looking for truth. He goes to mountain tops where hermits are meditating. He goes to forests where sannyasis are scourging themselves. He goes to caves. He cannot find truth. Despairing one day and taking refuge from a thunderstorm, he finds himself in this dank and musty cave. And there in the darkness is this old hag, a crone, you know, wizened face, bony limbs, matted hair, warts on the features. But she seems to understand what he's looking for. And they start talking. And they talk all night. And as dawn breaks, the warrior realizes he has come to the end of his journey. He has found truth. This old hag is truth. So as he's about to leave to claim his bride, he says to her, tell me, what can I tell them at the palace about you? And the wizened old crone smiles and says, tell them that I'm young and beautiful. This is a 2,000-year-old Puranic story, but believe me, it makes a very simple proposition. Truth may exist, but even truth is not true. The fact is that in talking about what the kind of world is we have today, we've been seduced by the world of the social media, where in fact, to an extent never witnessed before, people have been believing things that aren't true, that they find it convenient to believe, and it's never in many ways been easier to tell lies and have them spread. A quote attributed wrongly, I believe, to Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, said that the falsehood can go around the globe twice before truth has got its boots on. And of course, with the social media, it works even faster. Now, the fact is, we all know that there is truth, as Luke Harding so effectively said. The truth is that you are entitled to your opinions, and in social media, we all have opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. The facts are what they are, and thanks to the same internet, these lies are getting exposed. Ordinary people can establish the truth if they know where to look. When Trump tells lies and then calls his opponent lying Hillary, you know where the balance of truth lies. It doesn't take much difference. The fact is that where multiple truths exist and flourish, where there's truth with a possessive pronoun, your truth, my truth, her truth, then obviously what we're talking about is a world in which people are getting away with falsehoods. So let me end. It is not a post-truth world. It is a world where it's easier to lie and spread your lies. It's also easier to counter the lie. It's a world where you can assert your truth. And what is more, that others can assert their truth. Let us not just bemoan a post-truth world. Let us stand up for what we believe in, and let's fight for our truth. Jai Hind.
All right, now we get into the round where panelists are allowed to respond, rebut each other, and I'm allowed to ask them a few questions to set the motion rolling. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this a little differently. I'm going to ask everybody to describe one thing that they've been untruthful about. Suhel, we'll start with you.
Saying that you're truthful. No, I'm joking, Anna. No,
Or an untruth of the times.
No,
let's talk about what leaps out as you.
We the people must be allowed to speak our minds without the moderator intervening every minute.
The moderator won't be silenced.
I want to take on a very logical point made by Shashi.
Yeah.
Shashi is unarguably one of the most formidable debaters of our time, but then having worked for an intellectual giant like the one he works for, sometimes logic escapes you. So, I want to take him back to the one point that I made at the very beginning, and you're absolutely right. The fact that we know how to distinguish the truth from the lies does not prevent us from believing that in this world, sometimes lies are perpetrated in a manner in order to either win elections, do whatever, change the narrative. So we're seeing exactly that. The post-truth world has both the deceit and the truth. To imagine that we only lived in a world of truisms and not lies, or only live in a world of lies and not truth, in itself is facetious.
So how is it post-truths then?
It is, because there's both. Everything's existing. You're finding out. If you go back to my opening argument, I said you may communicate a lie, but the lie never holds in a world such as this.
Okay. Can I take that to Swapan? Swapan, you were sort of very dismissive about university professors, mainstream media, all of that. Me, that's cool. Do you think Donald Trump is a truthful man?
I think only you may believe that.
No, I'm asking you what you believe.
Because
I'm asking you what you believe. You don't deflect the question back, you have to answer
The point
it.
is very simple. You are trying to deflect the question.
But this debate is
is
not about
a
me.
debate about Donald Trump.
Nor is it about Barkha.
This is about if entire issue of the world could have been reduced to who won the American election on November the 8th. Is that what you want it to be? Or is there something beyond Donald Trump? Is there something beyond Hillary Clinton? It's something beyond your thing, beyond your personal preferences.
So let's pick up.
This whole thing boils down to, can anyone honestly and truthfully be able to describe which side any of the seven spoke for?
No.
Were they therefore willfully lying?
Yes.
Were they willfully lying?
Yes.
Or was it a case of half empty or half full? Tell me that. You know, in India in 1857, about 3 million odd chapatis, as many as Donald Trump's retweets, were probably circulated, which to various people meant that the imminent demise of the British Empire in India. Now, were they guilty of a massive falsehood? To answer this question, it's very important because it suggests that much before social media was invented, people had their own ways of perceiving what the truth is.
Okay.
And therefore, what constitutes the truth for you may not necessarily be the truth for you. There is, in the entire Hindu tradition, a certain lack of certitudes, a celebration of grayness.
Okay.
That Everything cannot be in black and
So
white.
you're saying there is
which
no
is what
singular
re-
truth. You are saying there is
Therefore,
no singular truth.
I am saying that to talk about post-truth as something which suddenly got invented because Americans voted in a certain way is a facile argument characteristic of professors from Stanford or Brown or some other place.
I want Luke to take that.
I'd like to take it to...
I want Luke, may I just, because it just relates to something Luke said and then I'll come to you, Anne. Luke, because you are the only person who spoke in this whole panel about facts.
Yeah.
And almost everybody else has suggested that there is a multiplicity of truths, there is a contestation of narratives, that everybody is free to take away a little bit of the truth and construct their own version of reality. You are saying truth is scientifically quantifiable.
Well, I mean, there are things which happen factually. Even you might, things do happen. Critics of Vladimir Putin are alive. Someone kills them. They are dead. It's a fact. Someone orders the killing. It's a fact. Yeah, I know, but things do happen which are real. We're not living in a world populated by giant lizard people who secretly control everything. We're living in a complex and multifarious reality where, of course, people have different opinions. Everyone's in favor of pluralism, but I think our political class, with no disrespect to the politicians here, has become more brazen. We just had a Brexit debate in the UK where my country idiotically, actually you might have voted for Brexit, I don't know if you're British. Anyway, all right, okay, let's leave that. But voted for Brexit to leave you, hang on, let me finish, leave the European Union, keep the microphone away from this man. Hang on, let me finish. And we had a sign, hang on, we had a sign painted on the side of the bus in favor of Brexit, which says, if you vote for Brexit, we, the British people, will be able to give £350 million a week to the NHS, the National Health Service. The day after Brexit happened, the politicians said, we didn't mean that after all, it's not going to happen. I mean, that's a lie. It's a lie. These people shouldn't be in public office. They should be in jail.
I have to interject there. Swap on one sentence and I have to move on.
What is important is not whether people voted for a truth or a lie. But I was in London the week before the election, and I met numerous people, perhaps as eminent as Luke Harding, perhaps reading the same newspaper as Luke Harding works for, who said, we've never met anybody who's going to vote for Brexit. Now that's their truth. And that's their post-truth also.
Okay.
This willful headed...
Okay, guys. I have to go to Anne now.
In any way, that side is divided.
Okay.
That side is already divided.
Yeah,
1 minute.
We're divided.
1 minute. I'm going to do this a little bit by order. And your whole argument was to reject the phrase.
We had a wonderful presentation yesterday where the woman from North Korea spoke, and she grew up in this country with a sense that this was the only reality, this was the paradise, America and the rest of the world was corrupt, and this was a false truth. She grew up feeling, psychologically you can understand, or even philosophically, the idea of a false truth. You think this is your reality, and then you realize it's not. So I just wanted to branch in totalitarianism. It's come up a few times, and I think this post-truth idea is on the road. We, as you have said, we are experiencing this already. Think of all the denials, all the post-race, post-Holocaust, post-this, post-that, as if we're beyond these things that have never been sorted out karmically. And in terms of relative truth, you have to think about the samutpada, this interconnection, and the sense of, one person's truth is another person's. It's very, very incestuous. It's very chaotic. And the reality in the States was so many new people who were voting for Trump, who were doing this, It wasn't just some people over there, the stupid people in the red states. It was very complicated and a lot of strange signals going on. But just to invoke this sense of the totalitarian possibilities that we're seeing in a lot of ways, things are moving, and I think there are enough of us, as we're seeing in the recent protests and so on, and in the intelligence of the Jaipur Literature Festival, that we don't have to go this way.
All right, I'll come this side. Shashi, I'll come to you in a moment. Prasoon.
See, I think to the facts and to Swapan's point earlier, I think somehow, as you said, Swapan, that people are in shock. And if you're talking about, people are blaming social media and saying the social media has given, what has social media done? Social media has given voices to more people. Somehow it doesn't seem to go right with people who felt having a voice is a privilege. Now everybody has a voice. It seems to be going not well with people who held power. The fact there was a closed room club which decided what is right for everyone. Now everyone is saying, you do not know what is right for me. There is social media and there is social reality as well. There were a lot of things which were brushed aside, which are coming forward. Also, let's not take unfair advantage, because we know the lexicon, we know the language, we are good with arguments, so our arguments should hail supreme. We should be able to, the people who do not have the instrument to argue, and they don't have the facility to construct language the way we do, and sit and privilegedly sit on the dais and argue, what about their voices? And social media, if social media is giving them voices, their voices are the voices you brushed aside. You did not listen to carefully. Let's not forget, if one lie resonates, it also reflects the truth out there. And that's also important to understand.
So we're back to this notion, and a quick comment from all three of you, of the contestation of truths. I think that's the point that Prasoon makes, Swapan makes. Luke right now, and you, David, are the only ones who are standing by the idea that there is a set of objective facts that cannot be disputed in mainstream or social media.
The point is, this is an argument about technology and the impact of a massively, massively disruptive technology on everyone's lives. And that's the net, smartphones, social media. And what we're hearing is, I think, the groans of the class that has been disenfranchised by this, who were the class that controlled knowledge in the first place. True. And at the highest levels of that are the media, and the people at the upper end of the media, because the monopoly on knowledge was no longer theirs, and all these hoi polloi started writing bits and pieces. So consequently, and this is where I think the media can play a huge role, and I come back to the Yeats quote about the best having no conviction, I think, and the worst being full of passion and intensity. If you think that social media gives a platform to the worst and allows the passion and intensity to change the debate, then it is incumbent on us to police that, to empower the media.
You've been judgmental when you're saying to the worst.
Again.
That's what I'm saying. The moment you say it gives voices to the worst, you've been judgmental about that. There is only worse there.
We're on the same side, man.
Okay.
I told you this Indian crap.
Nobody is on the same side, actually.
This Indian stuff is hilarious. It's brilliant. I love it. Okay, so that's the point.
Okay. Ashutosh, hang on. Okay, I'm glad they're still friends. There's an interesting question that comes up from David. Is all of this contestation of truth, or a singular truth, really a pushback against a kind of political, social, and intellectual elitism?
Yes. Say that again.
Is all of this a pushback against elitism in politics, media, and the public intellectual space?
Well, I think there's no doubt that social media is freer than traditional media ever was. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
But is it a pushback against the elite?
But it's a double-edged sword. It does give a lot of space for people who would like to simply channel untruths. There's no doubt about that. But it also gives space for us to fight back. I think it's incumbent upon. I think you're right, absolutely right. So it's a double-edged sword. But one more thing, democratic politics also is a double-edged sword. So those who've been elected to power with untruths will have to deliver. And if they don't deliver, and if people like Luke are going to get to the truth about Donald Trump, about some others who have
What about when truth doesn't matter? There was a lot of stories about Trump. It did not matter to the voter that he didn't disclose his tax returns.
No, he's been elected.
That he was misogynistic about women. It did not matter to the voter.
No. But he has to deliver now on some of the promises made. If it does not deliver...
You're actually speaking on our side of the argument, because my point is precisely that you don't... It's entirely possible to very sincerely disagree on the truth. So Swapan may have a set of truths as a BJP supporter, which I don't have as a Congress supporter. But in a democracy, there's no harm in that. It's better that we have a fair contestation between two people sincerely believing in
here's
their
the
own
question.
version of the truth and let the voters
That's
choose
fine. One
which
second.
truth they want to
Okay,
support.
one sentence, then I have a question
That's
for
right.
both Shashi and
But
Suhel.
here
Yes.
are things that Swapan needs
Quickly.
to confront.
Which are?
A, that Obama was born in Kenya is a falsehood. Point number one.
Yes.
Point number two, that Muslims in New Jersey were applauding the raising and the attack on World Trade Center is a falsehood. I may add one more, that demonetization is equal to taking money from the rich and giving to the poor is a falsehood. It's an utter falsehood.
Okay.
That has to be confronted.
So I think we finally have the germ of the debate that people may know the
Sanjoy.
falsehood.
I just want to make a very small point.
Okay.
You see, I think,
Okay,
I
one at a
think,
time.
Barkha,
Sanjoy, do
there
you
are
have
many
sorbitry?
falsehoods and
One at a
truths.
time.
Sorbitry.
But if certain people believe that certain things are the truth and deny what Varshney says is a falsehood, that is less a commentary on the facts, but more a commentary on the person saying it. So it is really the credibility of the person
hold on.
saying it.
Swapan.
That is really. Mr. Varshney, the day demonetization happened,
Swapan Dasgupta.
you said it's a failure.
Swapan Dasgupta.
Yeah, just throw a bottle and kill him.
Swapan Dasgupta
Okay.
Obama
So this is not a professor who's unbiased.
Did
This
you
is a
ever
professor
see
who's made up
Muslims-
his mind.
Did you
guys.
ever see Muslims applauding
Okay,
the
guys.
attack on World Trade
Okay,
Tower?
hang on.
I don't know. I
You
don't
did.
get. I don't get caught up in American debate.
Hang on.
Barkha will play the Speaker of the House and
Hang
say,
on.
"Shant
I
rahiye,
have to go.
shant ho jaiye."
No, you have not allowed.
Okay. 1 minute.
You have again shown your biases. You haven't
Suhel and
allowed us
Shashi,
to speak.
Of course, I'm going to allow you to speak. Now, both of you are going to get 2 comments, and then we go to the audience. The question to both of you is the same. Does the majority opinion get to settle what the truth is? That is something we have not addressed in our conversation. Swapan alluded again and again to the people's wisdom. So if 80% believe something to be true, does it become true?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And no one's argument, neither Swapan's nor mine, I can't,
Yes.
I don't want to speak for him or usurp this. Neither Swapan Dasgupta nor I have said that if the majority believe that, Barkha works for Fox News, that becomes the truth.
You mean Ornab?
No. This is a
Okay,
serious
make your
point.
point.
I think the point that Shashi made is valid. And let's understand the
I have to go to
context.
the audience now. Yeah.
The issue is we are both pretty clear on the fact that yes, you can contest the truth, but it can only be contested through the window of facts.
Okay.
But we've had a history since the evolution of man where facts are also interpreted to suit agendas. We've seen that over and over again in our country.
So
What would you call that conversion, that
Okay,
manipulation
fair
of
question.
facts?
So
Let me
can I
just
get-
give
can-
Barkha one sentence
For
answer
instance,
to her question.
Congress is the only party which does not have a dynasty. They elect Rahul Gandhi. Why do you keep saying dynasty?
Barkha asked a question, does the majority get to decide what the truth is? My answer is no, but the majority in a democracy gets to decide which version of the truth prevails, which version is more persuasive.
Brilliant.
Now,
Hang
that
on. So if the majority thinks it's okay for marital rape to not be recognized, for triple talaq to continue, you'd say that's the view that should prevail?
that is the view that can I.
But Barkha, you're not standing for election.
No, I'm
For
doing my job.
For example, we have the Section 377
Yes.
issue where I believe 377 is wrong in accusing
Parliament doesn't
people
believe so?
of being unnatural
Yes.
when they lead their
Yes.
normal love
Yes,
lives.
exactly.
Now, when I try and raise that, a majority in Parliament rises up against me
Should
and
that
says
view
no.
prevail?
So in a
Should that view
democracy,
prevail?
their view does prevail for now.
Should it?
For now.
Should
Should,
it?
of course not. That's why I'm
Back
against
to-
it.
Case
But
majority.
it does
the
for
point
now.
is
I have to go
We're
to the
describing
audience.
the world as it is.
Okay, I have to go to the audience. Listen, guys, this is pretty raucous, so we've got to control this. I'm going to call out about 3-4 questions. Please stand up, ask a question. Do not offer an opinion, ask a question. This young person here. Yes. The mics have to reach you. Huh? We don't have time for opinions. We have 6 minutes left. No. I am a moderator. Ask the question to the panel. Because I haven't spoken. I haven't got a chance to speak. No, listen, guys. You call me for a separate panel and ask me as many questions as you want to. Ask the panel what you want to. Yeah. Calm down. You need a mic. It's coming to you. It's coming to you. Hand him the mic.
7, 8, 2000. 8 to 9.
Okay, now calm down and what's your question?
Yeah, thank you. So my question to you, sir, is that Barkha ma'am has been you. Yeah. So Barkha ma'am has been.
Just ask the
Boss,
question.
naam to bol do yaar.
Sir, don't you think that Stanford is in itself a brand name and that it may not be the truth, but then its acceptance rate is so high that people believe it to be the truth, and that is what Barkha ma'am has been standing on since the starting.
Okay. So who wants to take? Suhel, you want to take this?
No, I have nothing to do with Stanford, boss. He's an American professor. Ask him.
I think let's push what he's asking. What when facts don't matter? Who wants to take that? There are a lot of time people know facts, but facts just don't matter. Does anyone want to take that quickly? Facts, Shashi, you said.
Well, I mean, there are fact-checking sites, for example,
No.
which establish.
Suppose you know a fact, but you decide to vote for whoever, not Donald Trump.
But
somebody
that's
in
not
India
about the
anyway.
truth, it's about values. So, for example, you know that Trump said what he said.
Yeah.
You actually heard the tape, he's not denied it.
Yes.
But you say, it doesn't matter, I still want him to be
Yes.
president.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're rejecting the facts. You're simply saying the facts don't matter as much as the media think they ought to
One
matter.
sentence and I'm taking
Now,
the next
no.
question. Yeah.
I completely agree with Shashi. It is again the interpretation and the manipulation of that piece of fact, non-fact, that the media then uses to describe this post-truth, post-truth debate. The reality is, people, if they're digging for facts, will know and must know, and the truth will come out.
But there is an interesting question raised by Ashutosh Varshney here that, Obama was born in America, but many people spread the falsehood, Swapan, that he wasn't. Is that not objectively a falsehood?
People don't know he's born in America, na?
Yes, but why was it such an integral part of the campaign? Does anyone want to take that? Yeah, here. Can we get the mic to him? Yeah, I'm going to take 3 questions together and then we'll take it back to the panel.
Yeah, my question is, when you learned people cannot decide what is truth, why do you expect us to understand and decide that we'll understand what is truth?
Okay, we'll take 2 more and we'll take them together. Here in the front row, yes.
So my question is directed at Mr. Shashi Tharoor. So you were telling if the truth, if truth is objective, the people are expected to understand it is truth. But then we see a lot of facts floating around like Sanskrit is being used by NASA, things like that. So when it comes to a normal person, it's insanely hard to verify the truth. So okay, the truth exists, but it's different. So how do you account for this skewed?
Got your question. Young lady in the back.
Yeah.
Just give her the mic. Yeah.
So my question is, if the majority cannot decide the truth, then why do we have Donald Trump right now? What do we do? Do we change the way people are elected? Because the Americans have to deal with him, right? Majority decided.
So I think it's an interesting question. Is electoral validation a signifier of truth versus fiction? Does electoral victory change what
think
version of truth prevails? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, can I just take the Trump question just very quickly? I mean, I think, okay, he won the election, we all get that, but I think that the game is not over, okay? Post-truth hasn't won. We've seen 2 million women demonstrating around the world, 400,000 in Washington, hundreds of thousands in London. They're demonstrating against Trump, but they're also demonstrating pro-decency and pro-truth. And I think we have to kind of resist, we have to protest, I think we have to support proper independent media, which deals with facts and not with this relativistic soup. And I think we need to stay cheerful, and I think we need to love each other.
Okay, Swapan, then Ashutosh.
Bertolt Brecht once wrote a poem, and he said, wouldn't it be easier just to dissolve the people and elect a new one? And I think that really is at the heart of this thing. Luke Harding, Donald Trump is 2 days old in office, or maybe 3 days old in office. He's already announced that we are going to run a campaign to oust him, hound him. hound him from office, get him impeached.
Let me give a slightly different answer.
For that, we will do everything. His newspaper would do it. That is what they will do.
No,
and the point is very simple. Is it your business, sir, to actually ensure that 200,000 come out in Washington, 400,000 come out in London, or whatever may be the thing, the fact that no one came out in India? Is it your responsibility as an upholder of the truth?
Okay, let's move on.
Okay,
No, this is the point. People do not believe certain things because they know it's coming from people like Luke Harding. That is because he has an agenda.
Okay, but coming back to your question, man, the truth about
hang on one second.
what Mr. Trump said about women does happen to be true because he said it, but Trump also emphasized other truths about people losing jobs, people not being able to afford the houses their parents could, people not, and so one set of truths was in contestation against another set of truths, and people voting for Trump decided that these economic truths and the hope that he represented mattered more to them than the truths about women. Something very similar happened in 2014.
But of course he's going to do nothing.
They said some things that are being promised matter more. So it's a question of contesting truths, multiple versions of truth. It doesn't mean that it's post-truth.
Okay, Ashutosh, you wanted to take that,
so,
and then I'm going back to the audience.
Electoral validation is not about the truth. Electoral validation is about who will run the government of the nation. These are two different things. An untruthful party can come to power for all kinds of reasons. That has nothing to do about truth. That is, one second, that has something to do about emotions, beliefs, prejudices. It can all happen. It's happened in history. That's not about the truth. And the same person can also be impeached, can be thrown out. Nixon was elected and impeached then, more or less, and had to go. And more or less, had to go.
More or less, that's the untruth. More or less.
Incidentally, he was impeached, but the impeachment, when you say, incidentally, even... Listen,
Also, the Electoral College was built...
The thing is about democracy is that the truth is rented for 4 years. And then, if that narrative doesn't work, that truth is kicked out, and another truth is rented for 4 years. And that's the system, and it's not bad.
Okay, two questions from the floor.
I have a question. How did you end up doing this Times Now show? And does the nation want to know?
Well, news has become theater, and moderators now have to act. So I'm trying my part. All right, last two questions. No, wait. Let's go further back. Yeah, here at the side, the blue shirt. Yes, blue shirt. Good grief, really.
My question is...
Blue shirt, yes.
That the Donald Trump and Putin we are talking about, we are forgetting that good. They are pitted truth and good against each other.
Okay, that's a comment, not a question. Does anyone have a question?
I wanted to ask Mr. Ashutosh.
What's the question?
Like, are they succeeding, Mr. Putin and Trump? Because they have said they will deliver, they will promote good.
Okay, I'm going to take that, and I'm going to...
Hello?
Okay, wait. A number of men have dominated this conversation. Is there a woman in the audience who has a question? If you're there, stand up. Stand up and show me where you are. Right here. Okay. Get her a mic.
So my question basically is for the people who are on this side of the wall. All our leaders currently are more popularists. There's nothing post-truth or truth about them. Can you comment on that? They're all popularists. Donald Trump did everything. He said everything he possibly could to come in the news. Similarly, Narendra Modi or Putin. Can you just comment on that?
So it's actually Okay, so we're back to the notion of majoritarianism and how populist politics is where it's at. Maybe it always was. Has something shifted? Has something shifted in the power of populism? Like, who wants to take that? And then we have to go to closing comments from all of you.
No, I think she's right about the populism that's prevailing in many countries. And what is worse about populism is one leader presumes to speak for the people. And everyone who disagrees with him somehow doesn't belong to the people. And what is more, either you agree with the leader or you are anti-national, you're anti-people. Now, this kind of politics is not post-truth, frankly. It is falsehood, it is false. I didn't answer that question that was addressed to me earlier from the gentleman who said, how do we ordinary people know? The fact is there are various ways you can check. As I said in my brief remarks at the beginning, on the internet you can go on sites that will actually verify the truth and that are reputable, that are backed by serious research organizations.
Well,
the question is not what the truth is.
I have 3 husbands.
The question...
I haven't met them yet. How's that for truth?
Well, I suppose the answer is you should go on Wikipedia and change it or get somebody who knows.
Oh, I did all of that.
You did all of that. So the point is that, yes, you can check. The issue is not really whether the facts are controvertible or not. For the most part, the facts are available. The real problem is how much it matters to you and whether sometimes you're more seduced by the lies of certain politicians or certain figures than you are by the truths that are told by less interesting, less attractive.
Okay, it's now time for
Barkha, just one thing.
Okay, one second, closing comments.
I feel that, we have not discussed the role of mainstream media here.
No, we've done
No, we haven't.
Media.
We haven't. Because we blamed social media for giving voices of this kind and their lies have been propagated. You look at the fact that today, 2 politicians debating on a channel is laughed at and enjoyed as a piece of entertainment while your future being discussed.
Yes.
I mean, you have given a certain narrative and a style. When that style is taken by people, and you say people can't distinguish between what is a mainstream media news, a reliable news, versus what is fake, you have trained them not to. You have trained them to take everything as entertainment.
I agree
so
with
where
you.
do they draw the line?
I agree with you.
So I think it's important when we blame everything on social media, we also understand that the role of mainstream media has also been pretty responsible when it comes to the future of the country and serious matters.
I will surprise you by agreeing with you and say the crisis of TV news media is just trying too much to be like social media and has forgotten to be like itself. Now, closing comments, 2 minutes each. The drum goes off at 2 minutes, then we take the final poll. We will do 1 for, 1 against, 1 for, 1 against. Suhel, we'll start with you.
Closing comments on what?
2 minutes. You have 2 minutes for summation.
No, I still believe that the narrative that we began with, and in my opening remarks, that we are not talking about living in a utopian world. Yes, we do, to our mind, live in a post-truth world, but the good thing is, and Shashi alluded to that in that post-truth world, you are able to have facilities which help you distinguish between the truth and the untruth. Luke Harding spoke about the fact that the facts will always obliterate an untruth more scientifically than anything else. But I want to leave one last point. The premise that we wish to offer is that even facts, as we've seen over time, are manipulated to serve a particular narrative, either in their interpretation or in their presentation. That will not go away. Until that remains in our societies across the world, I genuinely believe that we will continue to live in a post-truth world, aware, however, of what we must do as responsible global citizens to shrink the difference between facts and lies.
All right, Anne.
Traditional analogy for the perverted truth is seeing a rope as a snake. As far as your mind is concerned, it is true, but it is still perverted. You could say that the psychotic world is a kind of truth, although it is not all that true. It cannot be denied as false because it is what you are experiencing on the spot. So even though it is a lie, it is a true lie because it is experienced as the truth. And maybe we think of the totalitarian situation as I tried to raise. And so you have this paradox and danger of those kinds of regimes. I mean, Trump is already showing with these appointments in his cabinet. We have Exxon running our Secretary of State. We have the foxes in the hen house, the complete opposite of what he has promised. All the people who vote for that is quickly going to come unraveled. And it'll take people like, I don't know, the progressive Sanders and so on to keep pointing it out and driving it home. But the point is that he, like the Weimar Republic, I mean, we only have to look at the textbooks for fascism to see how this works and see the way things are manipulated, the manufacturing of consent. It's already happened in a way, and we should know better. The point is that the internet was invented by the military. It can be unplugged at any time. We have NASA who can track every single move that we're making. We're in a very post. I call it the avant-derrière world.
Okay, Ashutosh, Anne speaks about manufacturing consent, but actually I think the post-truth world is about manufacturing dissent. As Prasoon said, news is theatre, polarized politics, polarized media. Please, your last comments.
Well, Barkha, 2 points. One, democratic politics is a contingent politics. Those who came to power today will have to deliver some of their promises, and maybe we can't throw them out if they don't deliver in the next election. But in democratic politics, it's not set in stone, no one is there forever. And therefore, we can throw them out at the next available opportunity, whenever that is. So I don't think you can take the notion of contingency out of democracy. And that gives hope to those of us who are opposed to Trump. That does. And those who are opposed to Modi. That does give hope. So second, social media, it's clear that knowledge, the intersection between power and knowledge, that was the main theme of what I said, that structures of power can manipulate knowledge. And that's been true during the colonial period and in the modern period overall. Yeah. That's been true. Most people would argue that, at least in the West, the notion of pre-modern truth or ancient truth was incontestable. There was some notion of truth. Modern times is different. Okay. So what social media has done is it is taking the mediatory institutions away. Okay. Which were which were the academies and traditional media. Those two forms. So this is both a very dangerous moment because it allows a much easier propagation of fascist ideas, but also it's a double-edged sword. We also need to understand this, and we need to contest. Okay. And we need to use social media to contest and present our version of truth and convince people that we're right.
Now we're back
There
again.
will be more suffering. That's the problem with Trump. More suffering.
Okay, we're on concluding remarks. Swapan. We are almost everybody keeps bringing it back to our version of truth, their version of truth. Is there ever, in your mind, a singular truth?
See, I think this is a very contrived debate. This whole debate happened because America sneezed. It's America sneezed. America sneezed.
Why do you
and the rest of the world thinks
answer
they've got
the
a cold.
question. Answer the
Ashutosh
question.
Varshney
Why
has
do you
been
evade?
defeated.
Always
the likes of Ashutosh Varshney, who spent their time campaigning from Brown University to influence elections in India.
And you justify Dadri lynchings in your writings. You justify Dadri lynchings sitting in Delhi. You justify Dadri lynchings.
All right.
What about that?
Ashutosh, please, Swapan.
I think we've just seen a very good advertisement for the quality of education and teaching in the universities of United States.
And the answer to this
and the
lies propagated in your columns.
What happens to Donald Trump is none of our business.
Hello. Barkha,
we
it's
are
strictly
not
only
going
2
to
minutes.
have
Barkha,
our language,
it's 2 minutes each.
Our sense of what constitutes the truth and untruth influenced by a specific debate which is going on in the United States, and may they do their debate as well. You see, this is back to the old notion that the mob has taken over and the mob has left the people. Now, Dickens had a very nice thing to say about it in Pickwick papers. No, I think it was Mr. Pickwick who went to a thing and say it's best under these circumstances to follow the mob. And then I think it was Mr. Snodgrass or someone who said, but what if there are two mobs?
Okay.
And his answer was, run with the largest.
Okay, David, Luke, and then Shashi, we have to end. 2 minutes each. Yes, David.
It seems to me that this entire discussion is about the nexus between politics and the media. Your country is 70 years old this year, okay? My country came out of a broadly similar sort of partitioned ex-colonial settlement, which was neither good nor bad. But you're 70 years old, and maybe for the last 70 years, there's been a very cozy nexus between the political class or caste and the upper echelons of the media. And this is all about an assault on that convention and those typically at the upper echelons of the political media, very conventional people who think they're unconventional, but they're very conventional. And I believe that what we have here is just a revolutionary moment of displacement of a class. Now, the problem with the conventional people is they don't like changing tack. And this is my appeal to the media. In fact, Galbraith, the great Canadian, although the Americans pretend he was an American economist, when speaking of conventional people said, the conventional man, when faced with the choice between changing his mind and finding the proof not to do so, typically gets busy working on the proof. So it is up to the media, and I really, really believe this is because I'm back to Yeats, to realize the game has changed. It's not an assault on fact, but it's assault on how you deliver the message. And
2 minutes
the
are up.
media has the responsibility, and the media will win this battle.
Okay, so Luke, take that on or push
Yeah.
that further, because I would argue that the media today is under much more pressure to actually take sides, because there is a suggestion that you had a side anyway, you may as well be open about it. At least that's a kind of insinuation that you hear a lot in India, that why don't you just wear your politics on your sleeves? Why don't you be the MSNBC to the Fox News, as happens in the United States of America?
Yeah, I mean, I just to come back at Swapan, I seem to have become his whipping boy. I don't quite know how that happened. We only met half an hour ago, but Swapan seems to think there's an election and that we all lie down like peasants for 4 years and do nothing. I don't agree with that. We're not peasants, okay? And our job, I'm pro-peasant, but, you know, I love your remorseless anti-elitism, but shush, shut up. The point is, it's the job of all of us, investigative journalists, citizens, husbands, wives, whatever, to hold power to account, to engage in current affairs. And if a politician tells a lie, not of course the Swapan would do that, but they shouldn't be allowed to get away with it. And I would just like to make, after a wonderful, I have to say, wonderful debate, Barkha, really kind of crazy, Jaipur, you guys are crazy, is just a calm plea for method, if that's not too unfashionable. I think we should be cool. I think we should look at the evidence. I think we should be empirical. And I don't want to be the last old-fashioned guy on the panel, but I really do think there is the truth rather than a million truths. We can have a million different comments.
So you're
That's
the only
fine.
one who's actually
but
said that.
Actually, we do need to live an empirical reality. That's important for all of us. Thank you.
So, Shashi, take the last word on this. We had, as I was trying to say earlier, we had Plato's very complex notion in the Republic, Plato's cave and sensory perception and how that's a subjective interpretation of the truth. And from there, you've journeyed to the echo chambers of Twitter, where if you disagree with somebody, you're anti-national, you're a prostitute, you're whatever, or everyone's measuring and evaluating you all the time. What I find is happening with journalists is that they are under immense pressure to play to the dominant narrative because they do not want to be labeled. In that environment, how can anyone be calm, as Luke is asking us to be?
Calmness may be difficult, particularly in the environment we are now. But I'm just, if you go back to the topic of the debate that we're living in a post-truth world, my argument is we're not living in a post-truth world. We're living in a world of multiple truths and contending truths. And we're living in a world. We're living in a world in which a lot of lies have always prevailed.
Is there
Let
any
me
one
tell you
truth?
one little anecdote. 40 years ago, since we've been talking so much about Trump, America elected the non-Trump, Jimmy Carter, to be president. A man who campaigned on the slogan that he would never tell a lie, that he would always tell the truth to the American people. And a journalist asked Carter's mother, Lillian Carter, "You mean in your family no one tells a lie?" And the old lady said, "Well, sometimes we tell a white lie." So the journalist said, "See, I got you. What is a white lie? Give me an example of a white lie." And Lillian Carter smiled sweetly to the journalist and said, "Well, I told you when you walked in that I was happy to meet you." Now that is a white lie. Now the fact is that here we have a situation where there are these contending versions of the truth. And the contending versions of the truth in a democracy will be adjudicated by electoral processes. But I also agree with Luke that there is a period of accountability between elections in which the media can hold the tellers of imagined truths accountable. You know, when I wrote An Era of Darkness, after all, that's why I'm here in Jaipur, I was asked in a number of forums by young students, how can you claim to be objective? You've taken, even your title takes sides. And I said, frankly, everyone has facts available to them. For every historian, and I'm only an amateur historian, the facts you choose to focus on will reveal your bias. There's no such thing as comprehensively objective history. So yes, even at the time of partition, there was Gandhi's truth, there was Jinnah's truth. And one could argue, thanks to with partition, Jinnah's truth prevailed. The truth is that as far as we're concerned, we can choose to focus on truths that are buttressed by the facts we find.
Okay, so before I take the poll, Swapan just handed me his phone to talk about false truths. So there's somebody who tweeted and attributed a comment to him, which was actually Ashutosh Varshney's. Demonetization equals taking money from rich and giving it to the poor is a falsehood at Swapan 55. Here we have in motion how just incorrect attribution can create a falsehood, which takes us back, no, not just by liberals, but equally by the right wing, which takes us back to what Luke said. There is such a thing as accuracy. Whether you call it truth or not, there is such a thing as accuracy. And we are now going to see if this panel managed to change your mind. You remember how we opened? I'm going to put the proposition again. This house believes we are living in a post-truth world. Those who agree, raise your hand. Raise your hand.
With a voice vote.
Do the ayes have it? Do the ayes have it?
We can't hear you.
Is that a yes? Louder. Louder. Okay, the other side. Those who think we do not live in a post-truth world, it's all a lot of mumbo-jumbo. Now, this is confusing, so we won't repoll. We'll do it by a show of hands because... So we had 1% in the beginning, 1% in the beginning who disagreed. We now have many more. We'll start again. Those who believe we live in a post-truth world, raise your hand.
And with a voice vote.
All right. We do not live in a post-truth world. It's all a lot of mumbo-jumbo. This debate is drawn. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Barkha. Thank you, our speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all. 10 years of the Jaipur Literature Festival. There are many truths. This is a platform for all of these. We'd like to take this time to say thank you. First to all our wonderful speakers. Give them a big hand. They've come from across the world and across the country. To all of you, all our wonderful audiences in Jaipur and to the city and to the police, a very big hand. To all our sponsors who make this happen. And finally, to the volunteers who've been exceptional across every venue. A big hand for them. On behalf of all of us, Namita, William, and my colleagues, Sharupa, Preeta, Ankur, Rahul, thank you all so much, and all of us at Teamwork. See you next year, 19th to the 23rd of January, right here at Diggy Palace. Thank you, Jyotika. Thank you, Ram Pratap. Thank you, Jaipur.